It is Thursday. You know what that means. That's the thing I was going to do. Then I realised I've only ever done this once, and that is this time. So I was like, actually, that wouldn't make sense. So instead, I'm just going to be like, hey guys, welcome to another AEW Dynamite post show. It is Thursday. You don't know what that means, but you might if you look at the title. For some reason, there's 30 people waiting here. This is a solo review or just kind of general broad strokes, show about Dynamite because I missed last night. Big love to Bobby and Jay Shell who stepped in, made us some money along the way, didn't kill the territory, actually drew some houses. And it's not wrong, man. I slept some more. So I'm excited to be back. There was a lot on last night's show to talk about. But there is an LNG Discord, Aiden. If you DM me on Patreon or on Twitter, like on my personal Twitter or on the actual Patreon thing, then I will give you the link. So yeah, it's pretty fun over there, man. Like it's people just chilling to wrestling. So yeah, man, needed sleep. I was lagging. Had these like big fucking marks. You can see my eyes are still bags, but I had like these red marks on mine, which I thought was probably bad. It's probably indicative of a worse problem, but I just thought it was sleep. So there you go. I saw a good reviews for Bob and Jay Shell. Listen, what is there left to say about both of those two? Just wonderful people. So love them both. We're glad the show went well. And let me tweet that I'm on here. Last night's Dynamite was really interesting to watch the next morning. Because so much happened. Right? Like it was chaos. The pacing was like they took every rule book and every rule from the playbook and of wrestling booking and threw it out. And it was a really interesting show. So I wanted to just come on here and talk about it kind of generally. I'm happy to do this, as a lot of these solo shows are, in kind of the format of of how we did yesterday's show, where you guys kind of guide things. I'm happy to do that, but for the sake of content, we'll start with what I guess is the big headline. I mean, there's a couple different ones. I know which one's going to do the best views on YouTube. We'll start with what Reese brings up and our thumbnail here. We talked it through. We went, kind of round in circles about the Scorpio thing and where that could be going. And it felt like Scorpio kind of had to win, right? So it wasn't surprising to see that he won. The way they did it was interesting. Those of you in the chat that said that was probably intended as a role for Cody definitely got some vindication last night, because that sure felt like it was supposed to be Cody and Brandy in that exact position, that exact scenario. But I think you guys know that I'm on this decision. I think that Aiden's correct. Scorpio looked great. He came out to a muted response, but as the match got going, they kind of got, there was actually like a trading chant at one point, and they popped on the finish. So I thought it was a hit, and I'm really intrigued by how they booked this reign. I have some concerns based on last night, which is that he was very much secondary here in terms of what was going on. The focus was on Paige Van Zandt, and that's fine. Next week, the focus is going to be on Wardlow, whether he wins or loses. We shall see how that goes. But I think he's got a chance. I think he's clearly up to it as a wrestler. It's just a matter of, can they position him in a way that the audience buys, but that is, kind of esteemed enough and high enough for that title. There's going to be a challenge in terms of finding guys that he can beat, and you're happy with that, and that still are up to it being a TNT title. He isn't a champion that has the cachet to elevate other guys the way that a Darby Allin did or a Miro did. I don't think you can do a Lee Johnson Scorpio match, as good as it would be. I don't think it would have the kind of gravity that Lee challenging Miro had, for example. So there's going to be some challenges, but I think if you just let the guy wrestle other good wrestlers, he's probably going to figure it out. The beauty of him not wrestling on TV at all for the last year is that there's fresh matchups galore, and you can kind of have some fun with this. I agree with Aiden once again that Swerve feels like probably the end game. They're going to give him a couple months here of wins, and I think that's where they'll get to. But yeah, I'm kind of bullish on this. I think Scorpio's got a real good chance here to make this work. I don't want this mixed tag thing to go on forever because I think that will, in the end, put him back as a kind of backdrop. But as an opening thing here, and then you kind of pivot into individual feuds, I think it works fine. I like the match. It was more of a set piece and a drama play than it was a straight wrestling match, but that's no problem with me. Yeah, I was informed, Tope, and you can refute these allegations if you would like, but I was informed actually that, in fact, you was violently worked by this whole Sammy Guevara thing. Violently worked. I was the conversation seemed to be that you had been fooled by the great salesmanship of one Samuel Guevara. So you get what you get. If he wrestles other good wrestlers, how is he different to Sammy? He's not. But it's just the chance for him to get over and try and make something work, make something stick. 6:30 did look brutal, absolutely. Do we get Kaz versus Daniels, or do we get Sky versus Kaz or Daniels? Maybe. I kind of think you're going to see those two team up in Ring of Honor again. Like, if you look at Chris Daniels' performances as of late, he actually kind of has some years left. Years is probably not the right phrase. He has some matches left. He was great against Cole Fredericks on Strong. So I think he'll be a guy to go to quite a bit in Ring of Honor, and it's a place for him to wrestle. So, yeah. I'm absolutely... That's where I expect it, but I think it'd be cool if you got a TNT title shot or if Kaz got one. They wouldn't be big matches for the live crowd, but they'd pop me, so I'm fine with it. I think next week is going to be a big-time dog and pony show. I think you're going to get 101 run-ins, Lambert, Page, Spears, and then finally MJF with the big kind of, the big gasp reaction from the crowd. Big drama. I think that's what they're going to go for. Shoot was texting me about, and one of you guys suggested this yesterday, the idea that MJF fires him and he has the no compete thing, and then like MJF, puts Spears in his place. And like we both agreed, Shoot kind of prefaced it with this, but we both agreed we don't think it will be what happens because unfortunately, they with the way they book, they avoid bait and switches, and I actually think rightly so. The modern audience doesn't like it. But as an angle, that would be tremendous. So that did pop me, but I think what you'll actually get is just a whole lot of interference, and they'll do a lot to Wardlow. I mean, the thing is with the ring, you actually have a way where you can beat Wardlow. Like 101 interferences, refs back to MJF comes in there from behind the whole place, and then boom with the ring, lays him out. Sky crawls across, and yeah, I think there's a lot of ways you can do this. I think it would be a mistake to beat Spears. Why do I keep saying Sean Spears? I'm not confirmed. Shoot, Sky. I think it's a good. There's ways to beat Wardlow. I think it'd be a mistake to beat Sky, but like we shall see. Alex Palowski says, Scoop loses to Wardlow next week, then Wardlow's immediately stripped the title by MJF. It's the biggest possible moment for Wardlow and MJF. See, I get it. I get that argument, but I think there's something to be said for their feud being about the contract. Like, I think MJF costing Wardlow next week limits him from getting the contract he needs, and eventually their match will be about basically Wardlow wrestling for his freedom. So I think that's where they'll go. But like, there's a lot of interesting kind of dynamics at play here. I agree. Wardlow, Batista, definitely. There's definitely something. Look, man, they've made this thing work. Like the live crowd's reaction to his promo. Yeah, I definitely pulled that freedom punch, Tope. Glad you noticed. Yeah, I think they've definitely got this thing over. The live crowd loves Wardlow. It's worked so well. But I also agree with Ant that like TNT title, that ain't the place for him, I don't think, necessarily. I think he's a guy that gets over as an attraction, murdering people. But I liked his promo a lot, to Reese's point. And, he's a guy. He's someone you're going to have to get moving on. I think he's like 33, I want to say. and they've done a slow burn that has worked, but now you're in the position where you need to put your foot down and decide what he's going to be. They seem to think he can be a tippy top guy. Whether he can or can't will be decided in the coming months and years. But right now, he's in the perfect position to kind of to make this happen and to be a star. Yes, big shout out to WrestlePurists, WrestlePurist.com. You can go there and you get news. It won't be like um, a flood of aggregation stuff, right? Because it's more the kind of the big stories and that kind of stuff right now. But if you go to the features section, which is what I'm going to be pretty hands-on and involved with, is there's already two pieces. The first is mine about Eddie Kingston, and the second is Pow over at Twitter that you guys probably see his tweets a lot because he goes viral pretty regularly at Backup Hangman, who did a really cool piece about defending Dolph Ziggler winning the NXT title, which I was lucky enough to kind of look over and help out very slightly with. The takes were golden, so I didn't have to do much. But yeah, there's a lot of the feature stuff we're really focusing on. So if you're intrigued by like wrestling opinion stuff, and we're going to really try and make that thing over Wrestle Purist. So yeah, good call in the chat. Please keep your eye out for that site. What else we got here? Yes, I agree. I thought it was really cool the way that Wardlow, like that line about his kind of background and why he felt like he needed the money was so. That was such a cool little touch that they didn't overdo or anything. Because it was kind of I don't want to use the comic book terminology again because I mean, we did that with MJF like 2 weeks ago, but it was very much like the way they fleshed out his backstory with just one sentence was a pop for me. So I thought it ruled. My favorite two things last night though, and then we're gonna just talk broadly here. But if you guys have something you need to talk about, then we will do so. I'm willing to adjust, but I'm going to kind of just go in my own direction and we'll see how it goes. Favorite segment last night. Feel free to drop yours in the chat. Mine was Regal. You talk about a guy that commands respect and feels like a guy, a figure of importance with just a couple words. I thought it was so cool to see him in this setting. It honestly spooked me a little bit seeing all these guys in the same ring. It felt like the kind of thing that we'd book on a TEW fantasy draft scenario. It was almost ridiculous that one promotion could have all this going on and it wasn't their like centerpiece. But watching that guy kind of piece together his promo in real time, and he knew there was a couple of things he wanted to say. I love the idea, and I was thinking about this a lot. Like, I love the idea that the Regal character is aware that John Moxley wouldn't have wanted him to kind of lavish him with praise, whereas Danielson very much would and was grinning wide as he got put over and stuff. Like, I love that element. He's just a great, great wrestling character. And there was just a sense of authenticity, a sense of the way that he was able to bring it all together and make it all make sense, and the closing kind of the conclusion of the perfect team, the perfect combination. The way that he talked about how Danielson was everything he was because he didn't have his problems, and then kind of like veered this way to Mox, which one of you guys in the chat said was something they could do. Absolutely just wonderful. And I have to say, and you guys know I've done this as kind of a bit, and like it's been kind of something we've gone to as a joke a lot, but like there you go. Am I back? I froze. Genuinely, this feels like it could be like the actual big angle that we always kicked around, or I kicked around and forced everyone else to listen to. Like, this feels like the kind of thing that could be an overarching angle that kind of takes over the whole promotion. It feels like they should be on in some form or fashion every week, especially once if they start adding people. I was told that Dave kicked around Claudio and Joe being in this group like I did, which popped me because I know he's not a grinner, which popped me. So yeah, man, I thought that was the best thing on the show. Quite frankly, I thought that was it gave me big Nitro vibes, which I mean is a huge, huge compliment. You know, Schiavone firmly in that kind of Mean Gene role. It was just great. Absolutely great. Yes, Jeff Hardy. I probably should have mentioned that, right? Jeff Hardy, who I think everyone expected Want to give a thumbs up to the fact that they. I liked the swerve, as silly as it is in terms of like logically. I did like the swerve of having Darby and Stang come out first, because not only did it make you kind of take a step back and forget Jeff for like 5 seconds rather than expect him the whole time. You don't expect him for 99% of it. I love having Darby out there for Jeff's arrival, and more so, with Sting. There's an awful lot to that whole thing. So I thought that was a really nice moment and a cool debut. The place went crazy. I'm told it's done really good numbers on the socials. So good for Jeff. They're gonna have a nice like kind of retirement run, I guess is the way to phrase it. But it's Jeff Hardy, man. People love that dude. I can't guarantee that I'm like super fired up for this run, but people are going to enjoy it, and it's the right role for Matt at this point. So God bless them. You ready for Mox Danielson versus the Hardy Boys all out? Man, I don't know if Mox and Danielson are going to last that long. I really don't know, but it'll be interesting. Some people in the chat have mentioned it with Jericho. That was my other favorite segment of the night. Opening seg, as a lot of Jericho stuff is, and a lot of his segments are, this was very much a WWE television scenario, which is not an insult. It's just the way it is. It's a matter of execution from that point. But the playbook, I thought, was very much the kind of thing you start Raw with. Jericho was fucking hilarious in this segment. He was so over the top and so phony, and I mean it in a good way. It popped me. I loved it, but I had one concern. I was like, how are we going to do this in a way where King would trust Jericho? In order for it to be a turn, King is going to have to, in some way or shape or form, like let his guard down, right? He's going to have to show that he trusts Jericho enough to kind of play this scenario out. And they've figured out this way to do it, which was so brilliant. And it was just, as soon as he started talking, I was like, oh my God, they've nailed it. Kingston had a weekend from hell, right? He was talking about how he went through this emotional roller coaster and all this stuff. And the idea was that more than ever, Eddie Kingston was vulnerable at this point. And he let his guard down. He trusted Chris Jericho for just a couple minutes. And he kind of, opened up and said all this stuff. And it was all perfect because it was all true, I'm sure. Or at least most of it. I don't know about him not showing up, but, the actual kind of inspiration stuff, I'm sure, was true. And the idea was that at that moment, he'd forgotten about who he thinks Chris Jericho is and what he thinks Chris Jericho is capable of, because it wasn't about that anymore. He got the win, and he would thank the people that had got him there. And they come out and do this angle, and my first reaction is, she texted me and said the exact same thing. My first reaction was like, oh, they're going to do like a tag on Rampage or something. Maybe there'll be a tag for a while. And they wasn't beating up Jericho, and I was like, either A, Chris isn't cleared because he got dropped on his head from a suplex, which fair, or B, angle alert. And I was quickly kind of leaning towards B. Santana and Ortiz came down. They did the big swerve. And I popped because you guys will know, especially those of you that have been watching the Grim for a while, we regularly landed on the idea that 2.0 should be with Jericho. Like, we've regularly done that. And we always were kind of like, but how do you make sense of it? So on and so forth. Like, we always kind of kick this around because their dynamic is perfect for Chris. Well, Jericho obviously agreed. That was where they went with this. Hager obviously joining too. And God, man, that power bomb. That would have earned. I mean, I don't know what TK's like as a booker, but there's some dudes that would have give you they'd have been pretty fired up about you doing that to one of their top baby faces. But I really like the angle, and this has been a common kind of complaint, I'm sure. I have to be honest, and I think I'm going to be on an island with this, which is fine. We all have different takes. I think this is like borderline perfect for Daniel Garcia. Genuinely. I know that sounds weird. Hear me out. Putting Garcia in the role that Sammy Guevara played 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I think is really smart. And I think that the one thing Garcia needs is some color, some personality. I think this is the way to find it. Chris Jericho will pull out the personality in Daniel Garcia by hook or by crook. They will help him figure out who he's going to be in this promotion. And he is the workhorse of this promotion. If he's underneath Brian Danielson, which he still may be, but if he is, I don't, you can only be so much the workhorse of the group. Me personally, I think this is a hell of a fit for Garcia. I really do. Now that could either be A, proven wrong, or B, irrelevant because Mox and Brian could just take him away. But I think this is a really good fit for Daniel Garcia, who is a hell of a wrestler, but I think he needs some help on the television side of things. And I know Jay Shell would have hated it. I haven't watched the whole review, but I was aware of that much. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, God bless. This is fair. So when I was watching it, I was like, oh my God, they're going to do blood and guts. And then I was like, actually, don't say that on the air, Joe, because people are going to dunk on you. And then about 4 hours later, Shoot texts me and was like, so, you excited for blood and guts with Jericho's, what is it, the Jericho Appreciation Society? Yes, Jericho Appreciation Society. I don't know if that's where they're going, but I'm going to just still confirm Shoot's thing here. Who pitched to me that Homicide would be on Eddie's team, as well as, this is the big pop, folks. Ready for this? This is a Joe Holbert angle, but by confirmed Shoot. Claudio Castagnoli makes a save in an angle. Eddie has no choice but to pick him for their team, even though he knows he should not pick him for their team. And then fucking Big Swiss, man, he betrays King in blood and guts. He does exactly what Eddie said he would. And he's, right there with Chris, or he does his own thing, either way. But when Shoot texted me, I was like, there's something to that. Now, I understand why the immediate response to me saying this is, why in the world would you waste blood and guts on this feud? Fair. However, in terms of why it could happen, this is the TV after Revolution, which is the same TV that 1 year ago they set up blood and guts with. That's the first thing. But more than that, I want to remind everyone of something, okay? Lest we forget that Rampage where 2.0 did the street fight. Do we remember this match, folks? The street fight where they had the jeans on and they were fucking awesome and Oracle was pumping his fist. I think they can do it. I think they can pull this off, man. I really think that may be something they do, and it will be a discourse. But I think there's some juice to that. I really, really do. They could also do Stadium Stampede. That's fair. I bought the Jericho face term because you realised that he's the most over baby face and pitched out here tag, and that's fair. That's like layered kayfabe. Good stuff. This is where I initially went to. Brian and Mox. I think I would probably do a thing where Regal won't let him do blood and guts. Probably. Because, I just... You could equally do Mox, but not... You could equally do Mox, but not Danielson, to be fair. He could just put Mox in the Homicide spot. Feels too lopsided, though, right? Thanks, Connor. I mean, it's fair, Tope, but at least this Shikara reference has some, there's a good story to it, You could literally just say, I didn't trust you before, I don't trust you now, and you could have Excalibur just explain it very, very briefly. Blood and Guts this year is probably this or Undisputed Era of the Elite. So the Elite Undisputed Era would just be a 6-man, right? I'm not missing people, right? Unless you have Cutler and Nakazawa in there, which don't do that. So yeah, you could do that. Yeah, I tend to agree, Phantom. You need to find a way for Brian and Mox not to be in it because it just feels like feels like too many top guys. Fair, but I do understand the intention to see Regal, Shay, and Blood and Guts. Very, very fair. What if they did Eddie Homicide Punk LAX versus the Jericho Appreciation side? Punk's just very difficult to put with Eddie, man. That's like a blood feud you're going to go back to at some point. Okay, so this makes more sense. Red Dragon, Cole and Jay White versus the Bucks, Hangman and Omega. Do that, and you have like a all-star blood and guts. So yes, I think there. I'll be honest. Let it play out. Hang on, folks. There are elements to this I like to see less than the one I just pitched, which is hilarious in so many ways. But like I've seen the Undisputed Era guys do those matches, and I didn't particularly like them. So yeah, I have my concerns, but equally it'd be interesting to see what the Bucks and Kenny did in that setting. So this is obviously a bigger match, just not necessarily the one I'd prefer. I know I joined late. Does anyone else think Cole is asking Silver and Reynolds? They said that he's doing that he's gonna. Oh right, sorry, Cole. I'm sorry, Connor. I kind of thought that was what it was gonna be, but then he just like picked Red Dragon, so I was like, oh, that's really weird. That direction they kind of took there. Like, I don't think you can turn that faction, man. Because if you turn them, you kind of have to take them more seriously. Which, like, is that really anything anyone wants to see? Like, it feels like they're just best as what they are, which is fine. Diamante was in LAX, yes. Keep Punk away from Jericho. I think you'll make that decision. I think you'll ensure that's the case. I don't really want Hangman dragged into this civil war. That's fair. I don't disagree, but it kind of seems like he's going to be in it for a while more. So we'll see what happens. The Elite Undisputed Era stuff sucks right now. Yes, probably. I think that the Bucks are a great team. One of the all-time great teams. But I think they still struggle sometimes with like the way that you do angles on TV. And I think sometimes their take on like nuance is actually just not particularly packed with nuance at all. Which reminds me a lot this Red Dragon thing of the FTR stuff, which I thought was just eye roll inducing. And I don't think it's particularly compelling. I think everyone's ready to just see the two teams fight. It isn't like it's this mega match that you need to build up for a year. Like, bro, it's Red Dragon and the Young Bucks. Just book the match, you know? Now, I don't necessarily disagree with Phantom. I also, like, I don't, sucks is probably a little strong for me, but I don't think you're wrong necessarily. Yeah, that's probably fair. I didn't see the BTE stuff, Connor, but yeah, maybe. It'd be interesting. I just, like, turning John Silver heel, that seems nuts, doesn't it? That seems like it would be insane to me. He's such an easy babyface. Hangman Bucks, Cole Red Dragon will be excellent factual. If that's what the end game is, it may be Kenny in the Hangman spot though. I don't know if I don't know where they're at on like what they're gonna, how they're gonna kind of turn. Like I kind of think it's better if Hangman just stays away from the Bucks rather than like full on reunite with them. If that makes sense. Yes, this was interesting, right? This was a good example of like kind of nuts AEW TV where like they fired Tully and smash cut, and Jim Ross was like, "What?" And they just carried on with another swerve. Like that was wild. It feels like FTR kind of had to turn babyface to freshen up and get some new opponents. But at the same time, it feels like the Bucks are probably going to be turning face here in the next month or two. So that's an interesting kind of two things there going ships in the night deal. But FTR, they've had a couple matches as babyfaces before. They started that way in AEW. They were Butcher and the Blade as babyfaces. They work the Red Dragon match as babyfaces. They can do it. Dax has a hell of a hot tag. Pop me, but I wish it was given a little bit more time to kind of sink in. But it's just me. What else we got here? Yeah, this is hilarious. Red Dragon have not actually wrestled a 2-on-2 tag match. Huge pop. The women's division. I am very disappointed. They get that 10 minutes everyone on Dynamite needs to be better. Factual, but I will say I have some concerns. I I don't know, guys. I have some. I was watching that match and I just wasn't what I wanted it to be. It wasn't where I wanted it to be, and it it's just a trend that's really frustrating as a fan. I agree with your point 100%, but man, it was like the match just was just blah. There's no bite to it. Didn't like it. It really bummed me out. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm a big Layla Hirsch fan. I don't know. Face FTR versus heel Bucks for the Dynamics flip again. Maybe. I don't know if they're gonna have time. Agree with this. I think the Rosa rematch would have been helped more by a promo than a match, quite frankly. Agree totally with that. So do you think they'll reshape the Pinnacle? Who do you think they'll replace FTR in the Wardlow in the group? Maybe I actually don't know if they'll do it. To be honest, I think they may just have Spears as he's like backup. It didn't really work, to be totally honest, man. Like they did it for the Inner Circle program, and they just kind of existed as like the extended family. So I wouldn't really rush to reshape it because the first one wasn't exactly necessary. I don't think. Brock Anderson's FTR's Young Lion is fun. Reset feeling, definitely. Very story heavy, story driven, promo heavy show last night. They did. That was a very good match. The Undisputed Era Elite couldn't have been easier to book coming out of Full Gear because the Bucks already turned that night, basically. I don't know what they're doing. I agree. It's very unnecessarily complicated. This is horseshit. Regal should have just tweeted, "Get fucked" at TBS. How has Thunder Rosa not got a promo yet as a title challenger? The lack of attention creatively is really frustrating. And like how stop everything is, like there's no rhythm to the feuds. They always just they're on, they're off. It's a mess. Does Maria sign with Impact? I don't think so. The Paige Van Zandt thing was good, yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a different thing, but you're right, Alan. Layla looked a little flat, and her and Rose looked off. Yeah, flat was the word for it, man. Like they just didn't. Their shit wasn't clicking. It was loose, and it lacked energy, and it lacked kind of edge. It was just real shame. Yeah, I think this is probably the truth. He's just going to book it, and it always feels like an afterthought. The match wasn't good, but TK needs to make these things matter more for the women. Having paid a Jade cut open challenge backstage stuff and one predictable match to get to a title match plan. Absolutely, and we've talked about this stuff. Like it's very kind of cookie cutter, and it feels like it's last minute almost. And it's like, oh yeah, we'll do this too. However, I can't in this particular show. I can't tell you that I wasn't frustrated with the match because I was like, I mean, if I had the pencil, that would be one of my go tos for like good in ring, and I just didn't think it was any good, which is disappointing. I miss Riho. I know that much for sure. I really do. So, yes, Regal's promo ruled. FTR stays heels, fights Brock and Lee. Brock turns on Lee. My God. It'll be interesting what they do with Arn in Cody's absence, or expected absence anyway. This is fair. It's almost as if they think the Britt Rosa feud doesn't need any more build. Definitely overestimate how big a deal that stuff is, right? Needs someone to take a load off, hit up Canellis. I think this would be a good idea for sure. Right? It feels like this could have just been a promo segment where you just run it back and like you give Rosa a promo segment with Jim Ross, sit down interview maybe or something. Just give her a chance to actually speak and add some gravity to next week's match rather than just doing a match we all knew she would win. So It didn't look like Layla was going for a chance to win the title. Needed to seem desperate to win. Factual. It was very. We're going to just fill this 10 minutes of TV time, which is frustrating. Where is Ruby Soho? I don't know, man. She lost to Jade. She lost to Nyla, and it kind of felt like that was a program that was going to get underway. So, yeah, I think it sure feels like their focus is elsewhere right now, which happens in wrestling. But that's the way it feels. Agreed with this. Absolutely agree. Dex posted an on quote. I think he's managing FTR. I mean, how did I not think of that? Brucey Beats, that's factual. That's perfect. I think I'd just have Tully with MJF more. They're kind of perfect, right? Like, he's so much like Tully. I just think I'd just go that direction. It could just be that Tully's not going to like be on much more. He may just want to retire. So we'll see. I think we get a Sammy Jericho program this year. Now that Jericho's heel, probably. I have less confidence in that being good than the Eddie Kingston program. But like, there's a compelling story to tell there, so I don't mind it by any means. It could actually, to be fair, going back to our blood and guts thing, Jericho, Jericho, Sammy could easily be involved in that somehow, some way. 1 hour women's show filled after Rampage to go on HBO Max could be a good idea. Yeah, man, Shoot and I have talked about this a lot, and like the key is, as Shoot always says, he's right. The key is that the women don't become an exclusive to that show. You just give them more time on like a separate thing while slowly increasing their TV time because they should be more over. They should be more ready for TV. So the key would not be to 205 live them and be like, okay, they have their own thing now, forget about it. But I do think their own show where they could have programs and 10-minute matches would be good. Now, in fairness, you could just do that on Dark and Dark Elevation anyway. So something needs to change. Did you dunk on Adam Cole being the in-between challenger? I did not, but I did roll my eyes. 2 destination pops. I'm sure Bob will be happy. Yeah. Fair. Spears stopped having Tully a bit ago, so I think maybe they're just phasing him out. I think so too. It could be, JJ. We don't know. It hasn't happened yet. I mean, if you did it right, I think it would be a big benefit for someone like Penelope Ford to have a program that concludes with a 10-minute singles match, rather than her wrestling 1 minute on Dark every week and then like 4 times a year getting a TV match. You know, I just think it would be a great place for them to get real experience, more than you can get from beating a local talent on Dark. So, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that I think the women need to be given more attention creatively. I don't think with the way the roster is built right now, you can do like 3 women's matches on Dynamite regularly, right? But if you had a show where you could just consistently do 3 to 4 a week, and then you do, if you shoot for like 3 matches between Rampage and Dynamite, it's an awful big step, I think, from where they are right now. That's just me. And this is like where it gets hard, right? Like people say, well, TV time's premium. It's like, well, I mean, Pac and you wasn't really like important or anything, was it? So at this point, does anyone have any confidence they're picking up any of these female free agents? No, I don't. I think from what I've been told, Sean has been kind of like a little bit shaky on Athena. Like he kind of suggested yes, and then was like, not sure. As far as I know, I haven't seen it, but that's what someone told me. On the air, I mean, not like as a scoop. And that just feels nuts. Like her not getting signed, I feel like would be a massive indictment. Like the equivalent of her on the other side would be signed 100% every time. It's a shame. This is also true. Just some like good segments would be good. Bless Britt though, the promos, man. Going in circles. Fair. There you go. I just said that. Good call. Feel confident they'll get Tony Storm. Um, I yeah, I don't disagree, but like I do think there's something to be said for like the trend of like big time free agents on the women's wrestling side. I do think there's something to that. I think Tony and Athena feel like kind of obvious signings. Um, if we don't get them, it feels telling to me. And you know, this is fair. None of us know the situation, right? They want to go there, but like considering what we know about this landscape, it feels like for the most part, AEW is going to get who they want for the most part. So make of that what you will. I don't disagree with this, unfortunately, but I think it may be just an overexposure thing, which is what happens with a heel character that you don't adjust or alter for 2 years. You know, you get there eventually. I imagine Regal would push heavy for Nixon and Tony. I would agree, but I don't know what Regal's like, how he is in that setting. Right? He may be very hands off and just wanting to be a performer right now, or he may be sitting in on meetings with Tony every week. I don't know, but I agree if he's the latter, he'll want them in. Agree with this totally. This is one of the biggest problems the women's division has. On the men's side, as long as you have guys like Punk, Danielson, Moxley, Jericho, they're going to book their own stuff basically. Even if they're not doing it in a very formal manner, they're very much going to shape their feuds and do some tweaking and kind of look after their own stuff. They have never had a female equivalent of that. They have not had a woman's star that will always be factored in because, quite frankly, they won't allow themselves not to be. So instead, everyone is kind of at the mercy of the creative merry-go-round. And Tony's got a lot of thing on his plate. You know, he's got a lot of stuff on his plate. So I think the lack of a key building block on the women's side has been a problem from the start. Bless Brandy, but she wasn't, you know, Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks were for the singles and the tag. So I think that's a real thing. We need consistent Sheeta, non-title feud, 3 feuds at once at minimum. Yep. Should we go in Sheeta's wrestling again? Hopefully they're in for the Owen at least. Hope there's not buyers in there as there was for the TBS champ faction. Athena would be a great fit for the Owen. I don't mind having one match per show and a couple backstage promos for the women, but the things need to be meaningful and they never are. See, I sometimes think this is a weird criticism, but like I sometimes think they would be best to just pick a couple feuds and like do them every week rather than the kind of more like slow burn and like there's a pre-tape once a month. You know, I kind of think sometimes they rotate too much for the women. Pete is enjoying the Red Dragon Buck stuff. Oh, wow. This did feel, I will say to Dave's point, it did feel like they were setting up for someone after you said she's beating everyone. Felt like someone was going to come out. So hopefully that's Athena. Yes, I can pull up. I got Streamlabs here, guys. You can send a tip. Streamlabs.com/late night grin. I understand that our audience absolutely went crazy for our charity stream. So I'm not going to try to push that too much, but you can do so. Aiden did. He said top 3 picks for the Owen winners: Ruby Soho, Chris Statlander, Serena Deeb, Lee Moriarty, Pack, Keith Lee. Okay, that's interesting. So there's Aiden's names. I would go with I co-sign Ruby. In my book, I've got Chris winning the TBS, so I'll kind of bench her in that regard. I would be really tempted by Anna Jay, who I think is kind of a prodigy in terms of skill, even if she's not fully there yet as an overall performer. I think she'd be an interesting choice. And I would say, in addition to that, we'll do Athena. We'll do that one because I like the idea of a newcomer. On the male side, I would personally go with Darby. Darby, Miro, Christian Cage. Christian Cage doesn't need it. That'd be a sentimental pick because I think they're so similar. Him and Owen, so similar. I don't know if everyone else is Streamlab. Streamlab got read out. Croaky Boy said, I think FTR may be turning face. If you heard their pods with Renee, they came across as great guys. We talked a little about that, but agreed. And Tony said, let's go, Scorpio, new TNT champ. Which faction? Okay, let me catch up. Good question, Aiden. A tournament on Dark. A tournament on Dark of unsigned talent with the winner getting a contract would be very compelling. WCW used to do a thing called Battle of the Underdogs, where they would take two job guys and have them work a match. Popped me tremendously. I'd love to see that more on Dark. It's like a Bill Watts thing. Kenny being gone could be a reason behind some of the women's issues, as wasn't he part of the booking for that division? Yeah, but I don't know if it was really. I don't know how much better it was when he was around, so it's difficult. I think it had signs it was going better, but it's always up and down, you know. I'd love to know how influential Omega was with storylines in the women's division before he left. It seemed like it was trending in the right direction. I do agree it was trending in the right direction, but how much of that was the tournament? Because those can kind of, a tournament can paper over the cracks. He did it last year too. It was like this time last year, right? The tournament that was in Japan too. Regal was a major part of the success of Bayley and Tasha in NXT. I think that's something people aren't connecting the dots on. The thing is, you're right, but he's a very particular, he's more of a scout and trainer than a booker, which doesn't mean he couldn't help, but he's kind of part of Bayley and Sasha, as far as I know, was more that he was high on them from the start. Like the story was with Sasha that he basically got her hired, and I don't think anyone else wanted her there other than him. So, but yes, he's a help in every which way. Britt in a program with Jamie will get more material and do better, hopefully. Did they announce anything else for next week other than Hangman 6-man and cage match? The Wardlow deal. That's all I think. It makes sense to have the same women every week because they have a lot less women than men. Having the men's feud rotate is good because they have tons of. That's my take. Yeah. That's my personal kind of read on it. Is that I think if you just pick a core, you'd actually do better. Book it more like traditional US TV. Regal's got some fascinating takes on who his character is in that regard. I suggest people do some Googling. It's really interesting. Fucking love Regal. What else we got here? Andrade is a good name, for sure. This is fair. There just needs some. Let's be honest. We've all talked it around a lot, and there's a lot of individual factors and details. But I think we can all agree there just needs more effort, man. You need to just pick some more women and try to get them over. Too much on and off. It's too inconsistent. Feels like Miro's place at Double or Nothing with the Joker in the Casino Battle Royale when he'll win and be Hangman's summer feud. Please note I'm still hoping Double or Nothing for Page Punk. I think you're getting that, brother. I think you are, but it's a hell of a feud for Hangman. The question is, will Hangman still be the champ? I don't know. Time will tell. Let me have a look here. Yes, William Regal's tweet was very fun. I agree, Rob Statlander's good fit to beat Jade. I feel like the women's division could do with a new faction forming and destroying the over baby faces to get some buzz. Yeah, I think a faction is something that a lot of women's wrestling fans have wanted for a while. Because there was 12 of them at one point on the men's side. I guess there still is. But I think it'd be cool for sure. I mean, you could argue Britt's thing is that, but it doesn't ever really feel like that. It just kind of feels like Britt's backup, right? Need to do something with Andrade, I agree. I missed Punk last night. Fair, but he's recorded promo was fucking awesome. It was 30 seconds long, but got it rolled. Tremendous promo. Do you think the division is hurt by having two heel champions at the same time for extended stretch? Yeah, but I think that's another one of those cases where you're right. and it's a real thing, but it's kind of a detail within the bigger story of just a lack of attention, lack of focus. Like it doesn't help. And I think there'll be some things that improve with Rosa as champ, but I also think the general just lack of interest in a lot of the women is purely a creative thing. So that won't change overnight. Unfortunately, I wish it would. Keep having Statlander do feats of strength in every match and win the Owen, go after Jade to win the belt. They're pretty cool. Stat is someone that like should be in that kind of group of women that you keep on TV regularly. She's been since she came back, which was now like 11 months ago, 10 months ago. She's been great consistently. So yeah, is Real going to recruit on the side while Mox and Brian wreck things? Moriarty and Garcia are joining the Regal Dojo brawl. I don't know, right? It did kind of feel like last night they were just a team, which I think we all agree isn't going to stick that way. I guess the end game is they get into like a feud with a group of some kind, and they like introduce they introduce another guy that way. Like if they did a feud with like Jurassic Express, there would be a reason to have a third, so you could like start there, stuff like that. What else we got here? Give me more 1 month frames of the TNT. I co-sign this. I also co-sign like weird world title matches. Like that popped me. Like that ranking thing is so dumb. Like Dante being 2, we all like laughed at it on this show, but it popped me huge. They just did a title match. You can do that sometimes, man. Won't kill the belt. I promise. You'll be okay. But yes, I believe the spotlight has just kicked off over on Fightful, so I'm going to be wrapping up here shortly. I just wanted to kind of talk about Dynamite some. I think getting someone on the payroll like Renee or someone like with a true interviewer skill set could be really valuable for getting personality showcase for women. Renee is an interesting one. Like so many people have left since her that I kind of forget sometimes we were expected that at one point. It feels like she'll show up eventually in some form or fashion, Yeah. Probably gonna have Mox and Brian go for tag titles, as Brian did mention how stupid it is to have a dinosaur champ. Yeah, I agree. I think that's where they're going. I think you probably will get one of their matches every week, and they'll do like the traditional climbs the rankings thing, and they'll probably win them at like the Battle of the Belts, or maybe even earlier than that. Yeah, definitely. Which is, I mean, awesome, right? I think, especially if it's like, if we get to a point where Santana and Ortiz win those tag titles from Mox and Danielson, like, holy shit, that's as good a win as you could ever get. More JR's sit downs, absolutely. Essentially saying that Moriarty and Garcia can't hack it and moving on feels bad. I agree, but it depends how you like frame it. It all depends on presentation. Like that was just a piece of Danielson's promo, but like it could be that the plan is take over the territory and then start recruiting. So we'll see how they do it. Let's be honest. I know there's some people that don't like her, but Maria Kanellis is the person TK needs to talk to. She did great with Ring of Honor. Factual. I don't know why people don't like her. She's just like mean about the Fed. Is that it? She did a hell of a job, as you said. Having a title match like immediately after brutal pay-per-view match allows for some randomness in the outcomes that might otherwise seem weird. Really liked all the title shots last night. There you go. Agreed. Yeah, I would like to be clear. I wouldn't expect Renee to be like regular. I just feel like she'll do something at some point because for the reasons you said there. Factual. There's our guy. Do you pop for how much JR hates Danhausen? Is the only thing I like about Danhausen. I'm messing. That stuff doesn't bother me at all. I'm gonna pretend it does. Like there's some people on this platform that got very mad at first. I wasn't really one of them. I was more mad about Adam Cole, which is very fitting, but yeah, it's so people like it. So they were fun to watch as a tag. Danielson doing the stretch of Mox tagging it to bite him. Yeah, man. What about Mox's dive where he just like fell over? That fucking ruled. I got his book. I'm back. Finally got the Mox book, which I'm very excited to read once this is done. Speaking of such, let's do like 5 more minutes, guys. any closing questions? Thanks for showing love to Jay Shaw and Bobby last night. The super grins popped me. Over under or more debuts before the end of the month, 1.5 under. I don't think we're getting any more for March. Actually, that's a lie. I think we'll get one woman in this month. Because you got what, 3 more weeks? Like 2 more TVs. I think you'll get one woman, and then that'll be all for March. That'll be all. It's like 8 people this week. Swerve was. I liked his segment last night. They're really high on him because if you look at that Rampage lineup, that shit is. That's like paper thin, which tells you they don't think it's. They think Swerve's a big enough deal that he makes it not thin on his own, which is really interesting. Like the women's match is cool, but Keith and QT, Darby and Quinn, like, that's like, whatever. But they see Swerve as a big enough deal that him and Nice is a big match. It's interesting. Preview Impact Wrestling. Well, no. Impact Wrestling's been kind of bad recently, I think. It's bummed me out. I was really good for like a month, and I think it's fallen off again. Just not enough quality control. It would be better with half as many wrestlers and, half as much TV time, quite frankly. It's a shame. Over under 45%, Jade gets to 50-0. Over. I'm thinking she's going to be undefeated for a long time. I think whoever debuts in that angle I just laid out, we'll just give her a good match and lose. I think they're all in on Jade, which fair. Yeah, I mean, I do best of the rest every week where I rank like the other shows. And I don't really plug it because it's more of a thing just for myself, like to keep myself in on what's going on. And like the last couple of weeks, NWA and MLW have just done like switch. They're just like role reversed. One week MLW was really good and NWA was terrible, and then they did the opposite the next week. And Impact's just like fine. He hasn't won the best show of the week for a while, which is a shame. Is the influx of debuts an issue with overshadowing the last debut with the next one? So I probably should have wrestled last night. Like, look, here's the thing with that. Yes, it is definitely a real thing. And there's probably a world in which, logic would tell you to stop. At the same time, God, debuts fucking rule. Like, it's just, they're so fun that I kind of think you just, is what it is, man. Let people catch up when they catch up. I think it's a thing. I do think you're right, but it's kind of become part of the product's identity. So what are you going to do? Does Via come before Jade loses the belt? Yes. Having a debut beat Jade now, unless it's like a Bailey Sash level star, kicks Lays out of the rest of the division. I would agree. I've watched some of Sacrifice JJ. It was a good show. Well, I saw it was good. It's good. Like, I've always praised the most of their specials, so you can't really come at me on that. At least I watched the thing. I just wish it was better. It should be better. Broke. What if the pops run out? Woke. What if too many pops? I think they're actually very similar. Which may be fitting. Yeah. Okay, guys. Let's wind it down here. I want everyone, if you're looking for some wrestling content, to go and show some love to my guys at the Spotlight. They've probably got like thousands of live viewers right now, so they don't need me to do that, but if it was right. Big love to Jeremy and Jensen, my guys over there on Fightful. So if you're looking for something to watch, they've got you covered. I'll be back here at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so like 6 hours from now to do the historical oracle with the great Oracle of Wrestling, who's doing January 1996. I'm pretty sure. I'm not really for the suit, but I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for people that love the Hardy Boys. It's cool. I'm glad they got the theme. That's all fun. Hope everyone has a good evening or good afternoon for a lot of you, and I'll see you this evening for the historical oracle. In the meantime, follow us on the Twitter machine at Late Night Grin. Become a patron, latenightgrin.com. You can sign up for just $1 mere. And in the meantime, enjoy this outro by the great man Bobby O'Neill. Speak soon, guys. Thanks.